just a short introduction on Andy. Andy is CEO of High Street. He took over that role mid of last year, but has been with High Street since 2008. Head of acquisitions, CIO, COO. Before that was investment officer with First Industrial Realty. So a real veteran at your young age of the industry, and I think one of the few leaders, especially focused on for a long time on infill location, micro or small box industrial real estate. So very excited to have you here, and maybe to start off, looking back at your 20+ year industry experience, take us back to highlight the different phases and milestones in the industry and how it has developed to what it is today. I mean, nobody ever thought it would be the favorite at any conference.
Not at all. I mean, and it's interesting to go after Sean and Todd because we can continue the discussion. And in 1996, we would have been the last discussion in a multi-asset discussion over a 2-day period after lunch on the second day. Yeah. So now we get to go first. So that's the biggest change, I would say. Industrial's always had the highest cap rates and the lowest, let's call it negative cash flow, meaning your re-tenanting reserves and your CapEx. So we've always had the highest cash percentages of your total return, but we just never were recognized from that. So as David said, I've always been on the industrial side. I don't know if that means I'm slow because I've always been on the industrial side, but we always appreciated it. Today, we have seen obviously the shift to other groups recognizing the cash benefits of industrial, and then obviously the strong supply and demand drivers that we've had. It's been exponential over the last 10 years. The biggest thing for us, I would say, is there was always a movement underway from next day delivery, same day delivery. I never knew I needed anything next day, but once I started getting it next day, I realized this is pretty cool. Same day delivery, I thought that was just going to the retail store and buying it, but now that it can come, so there's a push underway to get closer and closer to the end user. And I think, as Todd mentioned, the infill locations, and you tend to be in smaller buildings, and that's probably one of the larger differences I can speak to. That demand has been significant for the ability to distribute locally.
Yeah, and being on that dynamic, and 10 years ago, e-commerce was coming up. We saw a lot more of the big box, Amazon, 1 million, 2 million square footers being built, moving into last mile, and to what you just mentioned. So what's the biggest difference, in terms of how you're thinking about your real estate today versus 10 years ago?
And it's interesting for us, and thank you for that. We are a buyer, and I should have mentioned this. So we target assets under 300,000 square feet. So very